I am Terrence Ruffin, poser extraordinaire, 2-time Arnold Classic champ, runner-up at the Olympia, handsome man.
Boyfriend to Tiffany.
Boyfriend to Tiffany. Soon to be more than that, maybe.
Hey,
yeah.
yo!
Yeah. Philanthropist, playboy, millionaire, Iron Man.
There you go.
You forgot to say next Mr. Classic Olympia.
There we go. We'll add that.
Incredibly charismatic, funny.
Modern
my God.
Renaissance man.
Modern Renaissance man. Jack of all trades.
Fashion icon.
But also an expert at all of them.
Wow.
What's up, everyone? I'm David E. Mesquita, super nerd, super geek. I'm wearing my glasses today to fit the part.
Anime weave.
Anime weaves. Board shorts will be Naruto next time.
Oh my gosh.
I'm not a posing extraordinaire like Terrence. Maybe one day.
You're the coach extraordinaire.
Coach extraordinaire.
Coach extraordinaire. Will prep you to the best you've ever looked.
Do you have a name yet, like pro creator or?
So it's funny. Everyone calls me the magician. So I don't know why,
Nice.
and it's never been posted publicly, but everyone calls me the magician.
The magician.
I don't know if I need to do like the magician. So all these women had like amenorrhea cases, and I was like kicking them all in line within like 2-3 weeks at a time,
okay.
like over and over again. Like literally, it was like 30 to 40 cases in a row. And it was within a month, maximum 2 months period of time. And everyone's like, oh my gosh, like you're a magician. And everyone started calling. I was like, do I need to coin it? It sounds like
I think you do.
I didn't know if I attached like the magician to my name though. And my name on Instagram is Dynamite D. If it sounds like a Magic Mike or something like that.
It might.
It might come off a little bit.
Dynamite with the magician.
Dirk Diggler-ish, you know?
Yeah.
Dynamite.
Yeah.
I guess husband extraordinaire could be my next thing.
Yeah. World's best husband.
Yep.
Wait, I'm not trying to marry anyone else.
Best husband, specifically Caroline. There we go. Yeah.
Most sought after, unavailable husband in the world.
Oh my gosh.
Oh my gosh, we have too much fun.
How do you guys know each other? Where do you relate on? Like, and then kind of like, what do you like? What are these talks really about? You know?
Well, we know each other from our coaches, our mentors, Matt Porter, John Meadows, and Austin Style. We kind of always pick the same people to work with. Yeah. And now, we're here.
So our first time that we met, we were working Matt Porter's booth, and this was the first off season that he had where they needed to take time off to grow.
Oh.
We walked to the stage together, and we were judging Classic Physique together. It was
So that was
cool.
the first classic Arnold. Yeah.
First Classic Arnold, and it was awesome. And ever since then, I mean, like our relationship, it was like we would have correspondence every once in a while, and then we just got closer and closer, and it was just crazy that we gravitated towards the same people, and they were all good, genuine people.
For sure. I think that's the biggest thing. Yeah, I've always looked for like, smart, but also like caring and definitely for sure. Yeah.
And that's why Terrence is so charismatic nowadays.
Yeah.
That and a slew of other reasons.
Yes.
Oh my gosh. Talk to us about the show, man. What's been going on with you?
So yeah, I'll talk about
since the last time we saw you, I guess. Yeah.
Oh, let's talk about my show. Okay. Ooh.
What's been going on since the last time we spoke?
Okay. So this was a hard digging prep. Usually my preps are pretty hard to dig in. Where I was eating fish. It's the meme, the fish and asparagus meme kind of thing.
Oh my goodness, yeah.
It's fish, asparagus. I did have some zucchini in there, but besides peak week, and then 60 grams of carbohydrates total, including vegetables and fruit only. So essentially enough liver glycogen to make sure my liver was functioning.
Yeah, it's not much.
That was the end of my last 3 weeks of prep.
3 weeks, oof.
And I made weight cap by 0.04 pounds. It was the best look I've ever brought to stage.
Okay.
After I hit weight cap, we had 2 steak and potato meals. Stepped on stage, and I was very happy with the way that I looked. Now, the judges' feedback was bigger, more dense upper body. I have a really big frame, and I don't disagree with them. I completely agree. But due to my weight limitation and you just hearing that, the stress levels get very high when you're going into it, and I do sacrifice a lot of my look to try to get there. For instance, right now I'm 211 pounds. I'm not bloated. I'm not overeating, and my weight cap's 190. So 7 days later, I'm 20 pounds up. Now, obviously, most of that's water retention and glycogen.
Yeah.
But my upper body has come back to life for the most part. So I talked to the judges afterwards, and the predicament that I'm put in now is, do I still try to fit into a box, which is amateur classic weight class, which you can very well relate to. At amateur level, it's pretty brutal for certain height caps. And then do I continue to put myself in this box that I've been putting myself in for 4 to 3 years where I can't hit my weight? Or B, do I listen to the judges as well as myself and remove myself from a box that I've been putting myself into, go into men's physique, which men's physique, these guys have massive legs most of the time, or do open bodybuilding. And I think the answer for me is I'm not going for a look that is looked for by the judges. Obviously, the look that looked for by the judges, I believe, is personally a very good look. So if I bring men's physique upper body to the stage, as well as doing open bodybuilding, you can still bring a classic look to the stage in open bodybuilding. Will it get me a pro card? I don't know, to be honest. Open bodybuilding is stacked. It is a different look, and I don't particularly want just an open bodybuilder look. I want my classic lines, the classic look, and I think I'm almost weighing more towards men's physique. I put on board shorts mainly as like a joke, but at the same time, I want to see what the feedback would be, and they liked it. So
if I had to make a choice, I would probably choose men's physique. Like, me trying to go to open would be insane. That would be a lot of weight, and honestly, I don't think I would like the way I look. I would look at like 240 or something. I think it would be not great look. No, men's physique, I mean, yeah, people always make fun of men's physique, but like, honestly, like, you're on stage, let's say, for instance, you're on stage 2-3 times a year. So, I mean, like, you're really, really, like, going to control it. It seems kind of weird to me. Like, if you like to pose, then you still could pose off stage nonstop every fucking day if you wanted to. Yeah. But, honestly, I'm pretty relaxed. I'm like, people do what they want to do if it makes you happy. But, yeah, definitely, with certain people, sometimes I ask them, I'm like, well, when they're in a situation like you, I'm like, do you want to do... You can either do, what makes you happy, but just realize you may not get to the level you want to be at, or you can get to that high level and then maybe do what you want to do, like, in your free time. Especially now with social media, like, I do pose routines all the time now on stage. So, Pete Hardwick's another guy. Doesn't really compete very often, still posing all the time. So yeah.
I actually really like his physique.
He looks great, yeah. But I think he probably realizes at the pro level, especially with him being natural, he would need a lot more size. So why waste the money and time when he can just do what he likes and be lean year round?
And to be honest, I think it's phenomenal for like athletes. If you like the look that you bring and you continue to get better and you're natural and you don't have to sacrifice any health, and you already know that you're going to stay natural, you're never going to enhance, you're probably not going to go to the Olympia stage, and you're definitely not going to be top 5 in the world. And this is a realization that people need to come to the conclusion of. People need to know how big you can get naturally and where your genetics are going to take you in which direction. We've seen a lot of pro athletes try to take their physiques against the grain. For sure. And it's uncomfortable for me to watch because you can see
they just look bad, yeah.
Overuse, and they look bad, and something doesn't look right.
They might be bigger, but it doesn't look better. Yeah, me and Dane were just talking about that with another guy. Yeah. It's
like there's nothing wrong with men's physique. These guys are phenomenal. These guys are bigger than a lot of the classic guys.
They really are. It's insane. Yeah, a lot of those guys are definitely bigger than me. Yeah.
They're huge.
Yeah.
Like Brandon Hendrickson is like
Brandon Hendrickson's huge.
270 in the offseason.
Jeremy Pottman's huge.
Yep.
He's competing today in New York. Kyron. Kyron's huge. All those guys are
Is
huge.
that the one that had the Naruto trunks on?
Yep.
Bro, I saw those. I'm repping Naruto trunks. If I step on stage in board shorts again, it's going to be Naruto.
It's dope. It was dope. Yeah. Yeah.
He looked amazing. Did he end up winning?
I'm not sure. I think I personally thought the other guy looked a little bit better. I preferred him a little better, but I could see him winning for sure. But top 2 for sure. Yeah.
Yeah, the other guy was definitely a little bit drier, crispier for sure. And you and I, we're like conditioning freaks. Like we like dry and crispy.
For sure. For sure.
I'm such a conditioning freak where I feel like if someone is not the best conditioned on stage, they shouldn't even be compared fairly. And that sounds so bad because like structure, don't get me wrong, structure, size, everything, symmetry needs to come into the equation, but conditioning shows a level of work ethic and amount of drive that you are coming to the stage with your best look to date every single time, and I respect it so much. So
I have a different opinion, and I would say that because I know guys that don't have to try hard to be lean. Like Dexter, been talking to Daniel about Dexter Jackson like all weekend. I was like, this guy like did not do cardio. He trained 4 times a week, and even when he got old, it was just 20 minutes on the spin bike. So even me, like, I mean, I've been pretty consistent throughout my years, but the level of effort has gone down almost each prep. The last one was a little bit harder than the one before, but even this one I just had wasn't even close to like some of the ones I did when I first started. Matt, yeah. I honestly though, like, I am grateful for how strict he was with everything because it makes everything else easy. Yeah, when you have a guy choosing your cheat meals, you know, the 2-3 cheat meals you have in a 20-week prep, then, you know, it makes everything easy.
it really does.
Oh, yeah.
The 17 minutes of HIIT training.
I got up to 20 minutes of HIIT twice a day, and after that 20 minutes of HIIT, I would do 25 minutes of steady state. And I did that for like weeks.
My prep with him, 17 minutes. It was always 17 minutes of HIIT, right? He may have actually gone up to 20 minutes at one point in time.
Yeah.
Because I think his lucky number was 17 or something like that. That's why it was a random number.
It's weird.
In the off season, that's what it was. 15 seconds, 45
In the
seconds.
off season, holy crap!
Oh, yeah, he had me doing off season for basically heart health.
I probably had it. I just probably didn't do it. Like my legs probably couldn't take it. Dude, doing HIIT every day and then after leg day, man, no.
I was up to 2 hours of cardio today.
That's tough.
Going
That's
into
tough.
it, and we still missed cap by 7 pounds. And then this was actually one of the most painful experiences where I actually almost had to back out. So I don't do sauna suits and walking on the treadmill to drop the weight. I think it's a terrible way.
That's what he used to do.
Yep.
Yeah.
Because your legs sometimes can't move by that point, especially when you're like really struggling for weight cap. If you can do a sauna suit and sit in sauna, that's fine. But a lot of these hotels and gyms don't always have saunas. So I like Epsom salt. So I did scalding hot Epsom salt baths because I only had 2 hours to pull the weight. I knew I couldn't actually walk that off in time.
Yeah.
And about an hour in, so I do 20 minutes in until the hot water didn't get hot enough, and I'd get out, stick my head into the AC unit, and then I'd get back in while the bath was rerunning, and then I'd put more Epsom salt in it, and every single time you'd pull out about 1.5 pounds to 2 pounds of water for me. It works really well, and you can also use this steam from the heat as well to steam your own sauna up. Now, I was in 3 Epsom salt baths deep, and 4 pounds to go still, or 3.5 pounds to go, and I was so hot, but the AC unit wasn't cutting it anymore, and I actually felt like I needed to cry, and there were no tears coming out. Caroline sat me down, and we were competing. It was 2019 Junior States. We were both competing together. She goes, "You worked so hard to get here. Why would you give up now?"
Oh, wow.
And I just took a deep breath for about 5 minutes or so.
Yeah.
Jumped back in the bath, and I had to do 2 more baths, made my weight cap, and that was my prep with him. But yeah,
that sounds awful.
me getting down to weight cap has always been a struggle for me. But one of the things.
I wanted to. You were talking about genetics. I think a lot of times it's interesting. I don't think a lot of people understand what they're talking about when they say that. So let's dive into that a bit. I don't know, just if someone asks you. So one of my biggest pet peeves personally is when people say genetics don't matter. I think that is ridiculous. They like it, and I get wanting to believe in something and believe you can do whatever, but I'm like, are you so if hard work is the only thing that matters, you literally think everyone who's winning shows just works harder than everyone else. That is the only factor. Like this guy is just doing something incredibly different, you know? And that's one of my biggest things. And I'm like, oh, they want to quantify like how much hard work or how much genetics. I'm like, it's not a simple thing where you can just pick one or the other, you know? So I personally, the way I like to do it is I break genetics down into several different factors because, you know, you can have great, you know, bone structure, like, you know, height, bone length here, stuff like that. Great muscle belly shape, you know, that's a huge thing. The ability to add size, put on muscle. I think the ease of ability to get lean is another thing. And I've been thinking about this quite a bit. I thought about adding mental fortitude. Like you can always work on this, but I definitely think just some people have it a lot better than others just right off the bat.
I'm going to add one more thing to your list: recovery time. So ability to add muscle is one thing, but the actual ability to recover and keep stress load down. So the mental fortitude, it kind of ties into that.
Okay.
But recovery, I think, is actually, if you're talking muscle mass wise, is the limiting factor for any athlete, any sport, period.
Yeah.
As well as the body's physical ability to keep that stress load low so you can recover. So, but it ties into the mental fortitude factor for sure. But there is a limitation where some people just do better job at processing nutrients for sure.
Yeah.
And I can give an example. Keon Pearson, which we all know as one of the most genetically blessed athletes in the world, potentially of all time in bodybuilding.
For sure.
I rate him in the top 5 of all time. His thyroid is the best functioning thyroid I've ever seen on a human being. Now, and I have labs to back it up. Usually when you see this on labs, like people are like super high end of the scale, it's not a good thing. Like in relativity, it doesn't usually translate over to actually how much food they can eat to recover quicker. Whereas with him, the data is 100% accurate. It's crazy. And he also has bulletproof labs. Now we stay on top of his lab work and make sure to stay ahead of the curve on everything. But there's literally data where he's just an outlier. And when people talk about studies and try to quantify things, people omit outliers every single time. They just get omitted from studies. For
sure. Yeah.
You're an outlier. I mean, your adductors are some of the best adductors. It's so funny. Like, I talked about this with John Meadows, by the way.
Really?
I go, Terrence's most genetically best body part is his adductor.
For sure.
You have some of the best adductors potentially in bodybuilding period ever of all time. It's crazy. I remember seeing your first picture, I'm like...
And yeah, I don't know anything for it, honestly. Yeah.
I've never seen an adductor exercise.
Never one of that, never, yeah.
And so it's funny because Matt, when I was with him, he goes... He implemented adductors with me, and I realized how important they were actually because of you. And I think that's where he got a lot of his philosophy, where you don't have to be able to grow as big of legs if you have massive adductors. Now you have massive legs, period, and
it helps a lot.
Shape.
Yeah, it definitely helps a lot. Yeah.
Your front poses, like where you're doing your classic poses, where you have one staggered behind the back in the front, that is your look. And there's not that many people ever in the history of bodybuilding that would have ever been able to pull it off.
That's true. So, yeah. And that's another thing people don't realize. Like, you can have good genetics in a single fucking, like, muscle, like, in your body. Like, yeah, you can have a bit, like, you know, my legs grow like nothing else. And then my arms are like, oh, let's wait 5 years. You know, let's they're like 5 years behind. So I think stuff like that is, like, highly missed, you know? And when people try to, like, measure this stuff, I'm like, you can't. I mean, you can't measure, like, because you can have, like, say for like sometimes like genetics are just gonna beat hard work no matter fucking what. Like, I don't care how hard you work. If Ronnie Coleman trained 3 times a week, he would beat you. Like, no matter how hard you train, Ronnie would beat you. And I'm like, but then if it's, you know, it's closer, you got some guys that are closer. Let's say, Dexter and Jay. I would say definitely Dexter is a little bit more genetically best in shape and muscle bellies, but Jay works harder. Then he beat him. So there's 1,000 different cases, and you're gonna have 1,000 different results with each one.
I want to see people be more realistic with themselves, though, about their genetic potential. Now, if you're like a year into lifting, I was told when I started lifting when I was 135 pounds that I had garbage genetics, right? Turned out I have decent genetics. I don't have great genetics. I have good genetics. And I feel like most people have good genetics to a degree. Some people are like not genetically blessed, and it is what it is. So don't listen to other people's input. Work hard for 5 to 10 years at something, and you know if you have good genetics. Eventually, people are going to say, "Oh, you have good genetics, right?"
I definitely think so. When people ask that, like, one, you don't know until you get there.
Right.
Yeah, you can't just like, oh, hey, should I like lift weights? And someone's like, they can just look at you and know they're not gonna know. But I would say within 5 years, you can have a pretty good safe bet to know if you're gonna do like really well in the sport. Granted, you have outliers again, like John Meadows. The issue is too, though, like there's a factor of sometimes like you may have above average genetics, but maybe for some reason you're not training properly or eating properly, and that's a high. So like you may be training for 5 years, but your training is crap. Your nutrition is crap. So that's not an accurate representation of your potential. You have to be doing things properly for 5 years, and then even with me, like I was worried. My first few, I turned pro at 21. I did a whole year off season thinking I was gonna try to do 212, and I gained 2 pounds at 21. I was like, this is, and that's very concerning. And then I found Joe Bennett. He taught me how to train properly. And then I gained like 6 pounds in 6 months. And I'm like, okay, this makes it's a lot better. Okay, I don't need to worry quite as much. But yeah, that's a huge thing. I'll tell people sometimes, imagine your genetic potential is like a door, and sometimes you have to find the right protocol, training, nutrition, whatever, to unlock that door. Even Brandon Curry, he was, it took him like 10 years to figure out, oh, I need to be completely by myself to reach my genetic potential. So everyone's a little different. Yeah.
I think that's really good. For instance, John, it's funny, John always said that he had really bad genetics, John Meadows. And he didn't have bad genetics.
Not at all.
He was squatting like 800 pounds and still had a good physique. At his early 20s, one of the gnarly physiques, like if he was competing, he would have stepped on a stage in his early 20s and gone pro today.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, it would be a lot easier. Yeah, he just came up in an era of like the best ever, genetic free. He said he competed against Phil Heath. I'm like, yo, the best ever. So, yeah, he definitely had good genetics. Maybe not great, but definitely way above average.
And this is also something that we talked about when it comes to genetics and being realistic with yourself. If you're not, I hate the clout part that some people are coming into the sport because they want to look a certain way. There's nothing wrong with that, but if you're doing it for clout instead of doing it for yourself, you really need to take a consideration for running androgenic drugs and starting too early. You should be able to train. One thing that was great about you and I is we started natural for a very long time. I was like almost 5 years natural from 135 and went up to 217 pounds in 3 years. But I would go to the gym. I was so depressed. I would go to the gym and say, if this bar breaks my back, I don't care. And I was up to like a 500-pound squat 3 months into lifting because I was burying my heart and soul into this thing. And I was just eating big and getting big. Now, my nutrition could have been better. For sure. And during that period of time, I learned that I did have some type of potential in it. So I was realistic with myself at what level can I get. I would never be number one in the world. I know that. Even if I did 100% and only was an athlete for the next 5 years, the maximum potential that I would probably have is top 10 to maximum top 5 in the world. And I don't think I'd break into top 5 with the current athletes that are out there. So then you need to take into consideration, what are the health ramifications for what you're doing today?
For sure.
Because there is always a cost and a benefit and pros and cons to everything that you do in life. So I think being very realistic with yourself from that aspect, and you're really taking the time to learn and to develop your training and your dieting as a fundamental basis before even turning to other stuff is a very key point, because again, you're going to be so strong when you start taking stuff and get injured along the way, whereas if you had proper training, you probably wouldn't be getting injured, and you would know where your thresholds are
For sure.
at a natural level. So
makes
I think that's one
sense.
thing that people don't really talk about either.
One of the biggest things, I agree with you, man, especially with the training part. One of the biggest things for me, and I don't even train nearly as much as like a full-time trainer like Joe used to be, or some of the guys like Muscle Doc, but the biggest thing I found is most people don't know how hard they can actually push themselves. They think they're training hard, and then I take them through a couple sets, and then they do 10 reps on a thing, and I'm like, you got more. And then they do an extra 10 reps. And I'm like, you're training to 50% of your capacity. Like, you're nowhere near where you need to be. Same thing, I was in Hong Kong. Same thing, I had this guy, he was squatting. He was about to rack it. He was like 225. He had maybe 10, and then he did 25. And he still had more, but I was happy. I was like, the biggest thing I wanted him to learn is like, you are capable of more than what you think. So from this point on, you push past that pain and keep going. Yeah, keep. It's crazy, And then when I was in Washington, dude, it was hilarious. I was training 3 people. I was training like this skinny like 15-year-old. He got to come train with me because his mom. It was his birthday. She paid for it, and it was this other guy. He was like almost 30, and so the older guy, he thought he knew what he was doing, and blah blah blah. He wasn't. He was listening sometimes, but then kind of doing what he wanted, talking over me. And then we were all on a hack squat, and he had like 3. He got up to 3 plates. I definitely thought he could do more, but whatever. He did maybe 12, and then I had the 50-year-old. He hopped on there, frail as hell, frail, skinny. And then he didn't have 3 plates, but he put on 2. And I was like, okay, that's impressive. And then I saw it just clicked, because like he did 10, and I was like, no, keep going. I was like, do 2 more. He did 2 more, and then he just kept going, and he did a 2-minute set. With a 2-minute set, I was like, holy crap! I was like, and I'm like, dude, like, so you have not even, so like normally he said when he goes to the gym, he does 1 plate, 10 to 12 reps. He did 2 plates for 2 minutes. I was like, dude, you're nowhere near. And I see that so often from people across, even when the people I train across the world, in person, online, they are not close to what they need to be doing in the gym.
And I'm going to hurt a lot of feelings with this one. A lot of feelings.
Yeah.
Intensity variables.
Mm-hmm.
If you don't know how to train towards failure, to where you're blowing out your kneecaps or blowing out your back, or having to literally just if you're good enough, you can just sit the bar down because you're just taxed. You can't move it anymore.
Yeah.
Like Smith machine, you can see it more frequently where like you literally can't physically move and you just flip it forward. Logan Franklin actually just had a set.
I saw it, yeah.
And I would go, this is training till failure, guys. This is where people miss the mark. Don't worry about how many reps in reserve you have.
If you've never trained, especially if you've never trained to failure.
If you've never trained to failure, you don't know. And then RPE, I actually like a little bit more. It's actually the mental processing of, we have reps in the tank, so you're never going to push to your limitations. And then the other thing that I don't really care for about that is when you go super physiological, you're a different story. Your failure and your neuroprocessing has changed. Strength is a neurotransmitter in the brain that tells you how much you can train. When I was, it's almost bad because I was almost stronger before all my injuries. I had 245 on the bar, and I did 57 reps with it on a safety bar. If you asked me to do that again, I'd probably have a heart attack. Now, if I truly could keep that intensity, where I had someone looking over me and training towards failure almost day in and day out, you only probably need 1 to 2 sets on a muscle group a week where you're actually going towards failure. Now, there's central nervous system fatigue that comes in hand, and the recovery genetics that we were talking about.
Yeah.
And people are just different. So some people might only be able to do a set of failure a week. If you just tank your CNS and you're shot for 3 days, then it's not doing you any justice.
For sure, yeah.
But there's very few people in the world that can actually go to a failure. And that's why I love Tom Platz. That's why John Meadows loved Tom Platz, because he'd go to a failure and then he'd go to a failure further, because that's not failure.
Yeah.
Until you can't move, that is failure.
Yeah. Yeah. Tom Platz is a monster for sure. Yeah. Yeah.
Do you remember Tom Platz? Or not Tom. Oh my God.
Yeah, that guy we were just talking about.
He was like the reincarnated Tom Platz. He got hit by a train. Greg Plitt.
Oh.
So Greg Plitt was he was actually the body for Dr. Manhattan.
Oh, wow. I didn't know that.
So he was the #1 male fitness model in the world. Most covers ever.
Oh, really?
It's just a good looking dude and amazing physique. So super cool guy. He was the same personality as Tom Platz.
Interesting. Okay.
You'll have to check him out. It was actually funny. He was talking about drop sets one time. You'll love this one. Talking about drop sets, and he goes, "You're gonna start with 70 pounds, and you're gonna crush it until you can't go anymore, and then you're gonna drop it down, and you're gonna do 60 pounds." And then
Is this for squats?
No, this was dumbbell press.
Oh,
dumbbell
my
press,
God.
sorry.
I was like, that would be... Okay.
You hit failure and you drop it down, and then you use 60 and you drop it down, and then you 50 and you drop it down. And when you get down to 40 pounds, that chick that you're trying to check out and pick up, that's when she's going to walk by and she's going to be like, "Damn, he's weak." And you know what? Screw it.
That's cool.
All right, we do have to wrap though.
All right, cool.
All right, guys. We got a poll, so this has been...
Us talking about
Still working on that name.
Yeah. Why don't you guys drop a comment down below on what you guys think it should be titled?
I actually just like changing it every time.
Yeah.
But that's probably a really bad idea.
Probably bad for branding.
Yeah, really bad. Oh my gosh.